let's get started with our Zoom tour. Those of you who have participated in the first one along the Lebanese border, so just a reminder of the map. Last time we started at Rosh Hanikra, which is the beautiful marine grottos, the red star on the left side. And we were driving from Rosh Hanikra, from the beach, directly east along this black line, which is the border between Israel and Lebanon. We saw quite a few things on the way, and then we finished our tour at Mount Adir. So this is the star, which is more or less in the middle. And what we are going to do today, we will simply keep driving, okay? We will be driving from Mount Adir to the right, meaning to the east. And then we will be driving north, simply because you see this is how the border curves. And we will make it all the way up to the very top, where you can see the star of Metula. This is as far north as you can get in the Galilee. It is almost as far north as you can, generally speaking, be in Israel, but almost, because the outmost northern town is called Majd al-Shams, and it is located at the Golan Heights at the footsteps of Mount Hermon. But we will be driving to Metula, which is known as the nail or the tip of the finger of the Galilee, because this is the northern region of the Galilee. And here you see that it has sort of a tip. So this is sort of a finger. So this is the tip of the finger of the Galilee, and we will be stopping in quite a few locations along the border, and we will see Lebanon from a few directions. And you know, just as always, when I started planning the tour, I thought, okay, so I should be stopping at this and this and that. And then I thought, no, but I should also do this and this and that. But then I skipped this, you know. So there's so much more to see. So we have along the Lebanese border part 2, and we could easily have along the Lebanese border part 3. So I apologize in advance that you will not see all what is there. But let's start touring. So this is the view from our first destination of today's tour. And this is the view of the Upper Galilee as it is seen from a little special national park called Bar'am. So here we are at Bar'am. We just took a look north and east towards the Upper Galilee, and this is the reason for us to be there. This is why people mostly come to Bar'am. This is the structure, okay? We will see it better in a minute, but this is what we see almost from the parking lot. So as we proceed towards the building, we met a cat. Unfortunately, Lana is not here. She is the cat lover among us. So this is a cat which welcomed us in Bar'am. That was the only living creature except Noam and myself. So this is how the relationship started. And then the relationship, you know, there was a progress. And so for a while, I was left on my own. So I admired these beautifully carved stones, which were definitely part of the structure we saw before. But since they were found just a little bit away, so they were not, you know, placed back, and we don't really know where they belong to, but that was definitely part of this partly ruined building. And okay, now we get closer. I don't know if you have any guess to what it is, but I can tell you that this is approximately 15 centuries old. It is big and massive. It is located in the National Park of Bar'am, which is named after a village which used to be there called Bir'am, which is definitely named after an ancient Jewish town known as Bar'am, which is mentioned in the Talmud, and it is mentioned by Jewish travelers, which means that we have a big, massive, beautiful structure, definitely Jewish one, which definitely makes it a, well, as you probably guess, this is a synagogue. So this is the 5th or 4th century AD, of course, synagogue of Bar'am. And I'm standing right here at the main entrance to it. You can see that there is another entrance to the right, and there is also another one on the left, which is invisible, hidden by this pillar. And what is so amazing, I believe, about the structure is that it is at least 15 centuries old, okay? 1,500, maybe 1,600 years old, and it was not reconstructed. It was not rebuilt. Can you imagine that? I mean, this is how it survived for all these years. And as I told you before, the whole area here was a village, okay? We will refer to it in a minute, but let's just take a better look at the synagogue. So this is the facade, this is the front, this is the main entrance, which is pointed toward the south, which means that this is the direction of Jerusalem. I mean, now on this photo, I'm facing south. I'm facing Jerusalem. So I'm standing exactly as Jews would stay while praying in the synagogue. Now, I'm not sure you can actually see something here, but what I would like you to see, okay, it is difficult, but if you look real careful, you see on that stone, which is placed right above the right entrance, not the main one, but the right one, you can see some engravement. You might be able to spot some inscriptions. You might be able to identify a letter. I don't know if this is possible, but here I can see the bet, and here I can see the reish, and here I can see a daled. Anyhow, if you do not see it, so believe me, it is there, okay? It was identified and read by scholars. And this inscription is dedicated to the sons of Bar Yodan. Okay, that's what it says here, Bar Yodan. Now, we have no clue to who this gentleman was or who are his sons. Okay, that's all we know. It seems like it was a part of an inscription which was placed here. I mean, sort of out of context. Anyways, we do know that such inscriptions mentioning the sons of this and that, or just this and that, these are dedicational inscriptions, meaning that Bar Yodan dedicated money, donated money for the synagogue for his sons, or maybe his sons dedicated money to the synagogue. But this is like, a message from the past. A Jew, Bar Yodan, donated the money for that synagogue. And this synagogue is actually described by Jewish travelers starting from the 12th century. And they believe that this is one of the 24 synagogues which was built by Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, this is a name which should be familiar to you because this is the rabbi who believed to be writing the Kabbalah, the book of Zohar. And next to his tomb on Mount Meron, you remember the tragedy which took place on Lag BaOmer. So we have no archaeological evidences to who actually built the synagogue. And apparently the synagogue is much younger than Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, but this is what ancient travelers believed. So we enter the synagogue. This is what it looks like from inside. It is a typical basilica style building. So we have building of that shape, both synagogues and churches and just large public houses. But the fact that we are in a Jewish town and that inscription we saw before makes it clear that this is a synagogue. So now we are inside the synagogue, and now we walk to the very end of the synagogue, and this is how a Jew who came to pray in the synagogue 15 centuries ago would see the synagogue. This is the main entrance we just used. And, just for a moment, imagine that you're standing here. Obviously, it's very sunny. It was a bit hot, but there used to be a roof, of course, which did not survive and it was not rebuilt. But I don't know, when I was in the synagogue and now when I'm looking at this photo, I do feel as if I was one of the Jews, or I am a descendant of a Jew who used to be standing here praying in the synagogue, facing the wall, which faces Jerusalem, maybe crying over the destruction of the temple. I don't know, but there is some Jewish presence in this synagogue. We did not find a holy ark. We did not find any bima or anything of that sort. They did uncover a statue of a lion, which is very common to synagogues and other Jewish buildings. And then, when you look clearly, when you look carefully at the synagogue, you can see that the doorway does not really, it does match, but it's not perfect. You can see that here on the left, it's not precisely as it is on the right. You can see that this is the threshold of the main entrance. There's just a bit too many holes. So the big one is apparently was used for the access of the door, and one of those could be the lock, but the other one is sort of redundant. There are about 10 imperfections in this building, and so it is suggested that the synagogue was not originally built here. The style of the synagogue does not match the finds and the coins which are found in the foundations of the synagogue. So it seems like the synagogue was built in the 2nd or maybe the 3rd century elsewhere. We don't know where. And then it was moved, stone by stone, to its new location. That also possible because we know that in the time of the construction of the synagogue, meaning the 4th, the 5th centuries AD, it was forbidden for Jews to build new synagogues. And so a possible way to have a new synagogue, if you need it, without violating this law of the Byzantine rulers, was to move an old synagogue from a location which does not need it that much. So maybe this is an example of a moved synagogue. This other way, it is definitely a synagogue. It is one of the best preserved synagogues. It is hardly visited. I don't know if any of you ever been to the synagogue of Bar'am, but it is highly recommended, and it is so close to Lebanon. Now, you see, this is a guy who we met there after the cat, and he's looking at this little opening which we did not even pay attention to in the beginning, and that proved to be a cistern. It is about 60 feet deep cistern with a little bit of water in there. Definitely there used to be some water supply system around it. Probably water was collected from the roof of the synagogue as well. Nothing of that survived, but another proof to the functioning of the synagogue and the town. Now we moved just a few feet away, just a few steps from the synagogue, and this is what we see. All of a sudden, definitely the structure has nothing to do with the synagogue, and it's a totally different architecture style. And up here, it's hard to see from this angle, but this is a cross, okay, which is a surprise. We're talking about a national park. So as we get closer, now we are facing the structure. Now you can see the cross on top of it better. And now it is totally obvious that this is a church. So this is, I believe, the only example in Israel when you have a functioning church within a national park. So right now, as you can see, we're all alone here, not even the cat, which did not follow us. But some other time, this is what the church looks like inside. You see that it is functioning. This is a Catholic church. But this is what the facade of the very same church looks like a few times a day. A few times a year. Now you can see the Israeli flag, of course, on one hand. You can see a cross on the other hand, and then you see another flag, which I believe you never saw before, and so many children with a dove. Now we are talking here about a community of Israeli Arabs, Christians, which do not accept that they are Arabs. Okay, that was a complicated that was a complicated sentence, I know. So just remember that photo. We will be back to it. And you see this gentleman here wearing the black t-shirt. His name is Shadi, and we will be back to him in a minute. So remember this. And let's get upstairs, because from the top of this structure, we will see a beautiful view. So please follow me upstairs. All right, now we are located up there. And now let's take a look around us. Yeah. Okay, now we are facing the synagogue we saw before. Okay, the synagogue is just a bit north from us, northeast, and now we are okay. Now we can see the houses of Dovev, a village, a Jewish village called Dovev. Lebanon is right behind it, but invisible from here. Now we can see part of Meron mountain ridge. We can see Mount Adir now on the right. This is where we finished last time. This mount here, this is Mount Meron, and this is where the tomb of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai is. Tzfat is a bit on the left, invisible from here, and back to the church. All right, as I said, this is a functioning church. And when we look just a little bit below, this is what we see. These are ruins. These are houses. These are structures which used to be houses, which belonged to the village of Biram until 1948. This is a photo which was taken by the British back in 1945 or 46. You can see the bell tower of the same church we're talking about, and the church, which is now surrounded by bush, grass lawn, and that's it, basically, was part of a village of Biram. Now, the story of the village of Biram and Ikrit is a very complicated one, a very sad one, and a very well-known story here. So to make the long story short, we are talking about two villages which used to be here in Biram, and another one just a few kilometers away in Ikrit. This is a community of Arab-speaking Aramaic people. They do not accept, they do not identify themselves as Arabs. They identify themselves as Aramaic population, the original population of Syria and Lebanon. That population which still speaks Aramaic, you know, the language we use a few words of during the Passover Haggadah, and the Talmudic reason in Aramaic. So they speak Aramaic. They're Christian. They belong to a Christian denomination called Maronite. So they are a minority in Israel because they're Aramaic, not Arab. They are minority among the Christians because they are Maronite. The Christians are minority in Israel, and yet they are very loyal. They serve in the military. You can see on the lower photo here, this is a memorial ceremony for the fallen Aramaic soldiers within the IDF. And down below here, you can see Shadi, who is sort of a spokesman for the Aramaic community in Israel. His parents lived in Biram until 48, and then in October 1948, the people of Biram and Ikrit were forced to leave their villages because of the war, of course. And they were promised that they will be able to come back and settle their houses within 2 weeks. That was back in 1948, and that never happened. So they're still refugees, the refugees of Ikrit and Biram. They are refugees, but they're Israeli citizens, and they do military service because they did not escape to Lebanon or Syria like most of the refugees. They stayed within Israel, and so most of them live today in a town called Jish nearby. And they celebrate Christmas, of course, and they celebrate their weddings in this church in Baram, which is part of the national park. So this is one of these impossible and complicated and special places we have in Israel. So as we walked back to our car, we saw this, line of white cars. All of them had just married on their plate numbers. And this was the bride and the groom. You see how beautiful they're dressed in purple. The bride is not in a white dress. She's in a purple dress. And she came here to take photos just because it is a pretty place, okay? She's not Christian. She's not Jewish. They just came to a national park. So this was the end of our visit, which was a very special one. And then we visited a tiny little spring, which is a few minutes drive from Baram. So you can dip your feet in this fresh, cool water. There are little fish inside. And the way to get to this little pond is through an underground tunnel. And on the wall, there is a beautiful beautiful words. I liked it so much. So you see that I took a photo, and then this is the translation. And it is so true for me, at least. In the end of the day, your feet should be dirty, your hair should be messed up, and your eyes should shine. So isn't it beautiful? I have no idea who said it. It was not written down here, but this is wonderful. This is like the prayer of the travelers. Now from here, we will be driving to another very special community of a very special tiny little minority. I'm not sure you even ever heard of them. I don't know if you ever, I don't, quite a few Israelis are not aware of their existence because this minority is of only about 4,000 people. That's it. Okay. So we have two communities. One of them is here. This is the one we are visiting along the Lebanese border called Reihania. And the other one is called Kafar Kama. And it's closer to Mount Tabor. It's in Lower Galilee. So, this is what it looks like. I mean, unless I would tell you that this is such a special place, I don't think you would even look at it twice. I mean, this is like an average, I'm not sure, does it look more Jewish or more Arab, but there is like nothing special. A tiny little community. Here in the center, it is a tiny little museum, which is dedicated to the community. And this is a little restaurant which serves the food of the special community. And this is the Cherkessia in Israel. This is the mosque. I don't know how many mosques you saw before, but it does not look like a mosque. Actually, it is more similar to a little church in East Europe, if at all. But this is a mosque. This is the mosque, which is located in the old part of that village, surrounded by some of the old walls of the old houses. And the people living in this village are Cherkess. So this is what the Cherkess would look like traditionally. This is where you see this big red star. This is where they would live, in between Georgia and Armenia and Azerbaijan, between the Black Sea and the Caspian Sea, okay? Southeast part of former Soviet Union. And their language, well, I don't know if Ina is here today, or do we have anybody else who can Russian, but these are the signs, okay? The names of the street in the community. So up here in Hebrew, you can read Adige, okay, that's in Hebrew. Down below, this is Russian, but I mean, I can read it because I speak Russian, but it does not make any sense. Actually, I can read it, but in most cases, when you read the Cherkessian language, which is spelled in Russian, you cannot read it. It does not make any sense. Like the combination of the letters does not work in Russian. And then down below, it's in Arabic. So these people, it is one of the most ancient nations and one of the most ancient languages, spoken languages in the world. It does not sound like anything you ever heard. It is a weird combination of Chinese and Turkish and probably something else. It is not related to any other language which is spoken today. They are very military oriented. They were Gentiles, and then some of them around 9 centuries ago were converted to Christianity, while others were converted to Islam. So today we have Cherkess who are Muslim, we have Cherkess who are Christian. At some point, some of them who were fighting against Russia had to leave. And they had to escape. And they were invited by the Ottoman Sultan to move into the Ottoman Empire and help the Ottomans protect their borders. And therefore, a community of Cherkess arrived to Israel. So we used to have a few Cherkess communities. Today we have only 2 of them, only about 4,000 people, but very proud, very different. They tried not to intermarry, you know, they're trying to marry one another, which is not really possible when you have only about 4,000 people. But they are very, how to say, you know, it is very important for them to preserve their tradition, their dancing, their language. The children speak Cherkessian. And let's watch a little bit of their dances. Well, again, it is different from other dances you probably saw. So it goes on and on. I don't know how they are not getting dizzy, but somehow probably they practice for a long time. And as you could see, they are wearing sort of not a uniform, but it is military oriented. They have the sword, and they have bullets, and this is a very, very military oriented, very aggressive, I would say, tradition and nation. And therefore, men, almost 100% of the men, they are engaged in this or other source of this or other sort of military professions and guards, and they do military service. They have much more officers rather than, you know, we would expect relating the size of the population. So this is a nation which used to fight for centuries against different enemies, and they still keep fighting. This is their glory, and this is their way of living. So these are the Cherkess. They also have very good food. And from here, from Reichania, which is about 2 kilometers away from the border, we will keep driving north. Everything is pretty brown and empty. All these hills you see in front of you, this is the Upper Galilee. And then towards the right, you don't see much, but this foggy area, this is the Golan Heights. So in between, that's the Hula Valley, which we see now in front of us. Okay, we are on the Naphtali Ridge, and on the other side, these are the Golans, and the Green Valley in between. This is the Hula Valley, and this is the so-called Agamon, which is a reserve where we have cranes and pelicans every spring and every fall, which is a beautiful, beautiful experience. But right now, there are almost no birds there. So our next stop will be at Nebi Yusha or Koach fortress. Nebi Yusha and Koach is the same. This is the fortress. This is the structure which was built by a British engineer back in the 30s during the Arab revolt, Arab uprisal against the British rule. Today, this is a military base which belongs to the border police. And this is the place which tells the story of one of the most tragic battles, actually 3 battles of the Independence War. So this is the main gate into the base, but we are supposed to be on the other side. So let's get to the other side. This is the other side of the same building, the same British police at the time. This is the lookout overlooking the Hula Valley and the Golan Heights once again, here on the left. And here on the right, this is the common grave. This is the common grave of the 28 fallen soldiers, which were killed in the total of 3 battles during the one war, the War of Independence of 1948, when it was totally crucial for us, for the state of Israel, for the Palmach battalion to take over this police station, this fortress, because this fortress, which is now right on the junction of 2 main roads, used to be exactly the same position back in 1948. And so whoever controlled the citadel would be controlling the road. And after the British left, the citadel, the fortress, the police station was taken by the Arabs. And we could not afford the Arabs stay in the structure, because then they would be controlling the roads and they would cut off the Jewish kibbutzim, which depended on that road. And so there were 3 attempts to take over the citadel. That's what the structure looks from yet another angle. You can see this watchtower on the top of it. This is what it looks like today. It was renovated, of course. And here on this photo, you can see what it looked like back in 1948 after the battles. You can see all these bullet holes, which tell us about the attempts to take over. Now, there were 28 fallen soldiers in Gematria. 28 is Kafchet. So Kafchet is Koach, which means power, which means strength. And, just words, but this is the fortress of the power and of the 28 fallen soldiers of the Palmach unit. Now, among these 28, we have 2 soldiers which became more famous. One of them is Dodo Cherkassky, and the other one is Filon Friedman. Shilon Friedman was the commander, and he is known mostly because there is a large military base not far from Metzudat Koach, which is named after him. And Dudo Cherkassky became famous because one of the most famous poets of that brave time of the Independence War wrote a song about him, but it's also a song about the Palmachnik, the fighter who was not afraid, who was beautiful, who was young, and who was willing to risk his life. A song which is called Palmachnik Shmo Dudu, okay, Palmachnik called Dudu. This is the common grave, and this is his name on the common grave. There is a common grave because it was not possible to evacuate the bodies after the second battle, so they were left there for a month until the fortress was finally taken over. But then it was impossible to identify the dead, and so they were buried right there in the common grave with just the names on it. So these are the 28 names of the fallen soldiers of the 3 battles. And let's listen just to a moment or two of this song about Palmachnik called Dudu, Palmachnik Shmo Dudu. This is one of the most common songs to be played on the memorial days. It's like a symbol of soldiers 73 years ago and today as well. So let's listen to it. The singer is Arik Einstein, very famous, wonderful singer who passed away a few years ago.
We can't manage work like this. That's why I use Monday.com. My team uses it to manage projects.
Sorry about that.
הערב יורד עלי אופק בוער, רוחות בצמרת הרטיטו, ואנו סביב למדורה נספר על איש הפלמח ושמו דודו. איתנו הלך במסע המפרך, איתנו סייר ובגבול, בקומזיץ היה מזמר ועוד איך, איתנו סחב מן הלול. הגישו פינג'אן והגידו, היש עוד פלמחניק כמו דודו.
So the last words were Hayesh od palmachnik modudu, which means, is there any other palmachnik like Dudu? And, there is no answer in the song, but the idea is, yeah, they all like that. And yet Dudu was the best and the most beautiful. And he was killed in this battle at Metzudat Koach. So, I don't think there is any Israeli who is not familiar with this song, who never heard that song during one of the memorial days. And yet most of the Israelis do not even know that there was an actual person called Dudu, and he was killed in the battle right here. So now you know the origins of that song. Now, right next to the fortress, the military base, we have a relatively new museum, which is called Museum of Hareut. Reut is friendship. And this is a museum which is dedicated to the Palmach in general, not just specifically to the events of that fortress. So these are just a few examples of the exhibit of the museum. Here on the left, you can see Sir Alan Cunningham, the last British governor here, the one who left Palestine, and then the state of Israel was created the next day after he left. And these are the photographs of all the 28 fallen soldiers. This is what the common grave looked like when the first IDF soldiers came here. And then you can see the border. You can see the northern road, the same road we are driving today. And you can see that the red dots are the stations, the police stations, like that one we saw now. And then the yellow dots are another fortified stations. And all of that was built by the British in order to protect themselves from a possible invasion from Lebanon and possible support of the Israeli Arabs from the Lebanese Arabs. Now, after Metzudat Koach, we really feel like we need a break. We need some nature. So this is a tiny little nature reserve, which is called Yiftach Fishers. Yiftach is a kibbutz nearby. And we have some natural rock formations, some rocks, some fissures, some karstic phenomena. And the whole idea is just to do some exercise. You can climb down and up and just enjoy some nature. And this is exactly what I was doing, climbing back and forth. Okay, starting from down below, and then I climbed all the way up, and I was very happy about myself. And then another mile maybe, or even less than that, and now we are standing right next to Kibbutz Manara. Kibbutz Manara is behind us now, so you don't see it. And we are looking at Lebanon. I hope you can see this brown road at the right lower corner of the slide. This is the military road. This is the military road which separates literally Israel on the right from Lebanon on the left. So this is the general view of Lebanon. And then we take another look, and you see here, this is the water tower. And it's a bit difficult to see, but I hope you can see the two streets and something in between. So since it is difficult to see, that's what it is. Okay, this is the Lebanese flag. We are so close, and yet we're so far. You know, we were standing there, and then we opened a Google map on our cell phone, and Noah said, "Oh, there is a nice furniture shop in this village." And I said, "Oh, really?" So, well, we checked how far is the drive, just driving directions. Now, we are located about a mile from this village, okay? 1 mile away. And then we checked the driving directions, and we found out that it will take us 7.5 hours to get here, because the only way to get from where we are to the furniture shop is drive to Beit She'an, cross the border into Jordan, then drive from Jordan to Syria, then from Syria to Lebanon, and then through Lebanon, you can drive here. So theoretically, this is possible, and this is so ridiculous. So we didn't go shopping there. And this is another, it's just a coincidence, but it was so nice. You see, there are two trees here. One is pistachio tree, and the other one is an oak tree. And what it says here is a tree to be preserved. That's in Hebrew. Etz leshimur. And this is exactly the same, but that's in Arabic. And these two trees are on the border. So I don't know, maybe it was meant that if an Israeli will come, so he will preserve that tree. And if somebody will penetrate from Lebanon, so he will preserve that tree. I don't know, but it really felt like we are on the border. These houses on top of the hill, these are Lebanese houses. There is a fence, there is a border between us and them, which is invisible because it's a little bit down below. And this is a beautiful plantation of nectarines. Actually, I'm not talking about agriculture during this tour at all, but this is something which we could easily spend a whole tour just, a farming tour, because the Upper Galilee is the best place to grow and to eat peaches and plums and nectarines and grapes, of course. And most of the grapes which are used for wine, they are grown in the Upper Galilee. So this is a very nice rosé, which is produced in Kibbutz Yiron nearby. Okay, so if you love wine, if you love fruits, so this is the place for you. And then we will proceed to another fortress. We were talking about Koach, or Nebi Yusha fortress, which was built by the British, while this fortress was built by the Crusaders, meaning that this fortress is approximately 900 years old. As you can see, it is not preserved so well, but relatively not bad. So we were exploring the inner compounds for a while. And then we walked outside from the other side, and Noah was checking something, something very urgent on his cell phone. Now, you see he's sitting on something which looks like a wooden bar maybe, okay? Can you see what I'm talking about? All right, so let's take a better look. That's what he was sitting on. You see, this is an opening of a water cistern which used to supply the needs of the besieged Crusaders when Saladin was putting a siege. Now, it is approximately 15 meters, approximately 45 feet deep. And there is a ladder down there. I was not really sure about that ladder, but Noam decided that he must check the ladder and he must see what is down there and how is the water. So this is how it started. And then he got deeper, okay? And after a while, he got even deeper. I mean, it was not easy for my mom. I'm a mom, so I was not really happy about it. But he's old enough not to ask. And after literally 2 minutes, he disappeared. My son disappeared in this deep underground cistern. And I waited for a moment, and then I felt that this is too much, so I told him, come back. So he came back. So it was all good. And then we kept exploring the citadel from above, and we saw some thorns, and we saw the moat which surrounded it and protected it. And most of it is yet to be excavated. It is a huge, amazing citadel. Nobody visits it at all. And then we kept driving, so to be even closer to Lebanon. So here we are. Now we are in Kibbutz Misgav Am, and Kibbutz Misgav Am is right on the border, not next to, but right there. So this building here with the red roof is again, relatively new visitor center. This bush belonged to the kibbutz, and the rest, I mean, everything you see from here, now we are looking north and northwest, and whatever you see on that photo, except of the red roof and the green bush, that's Lebanon. Inside the house, by the way, inside this visitor center, we saw this cat. The photo does not do justice to it. It is huge. Okay? It's just enormous. And the name is Tyson, named after this famous, wrestler. We are sitting or standing overlooking Lebanon, a Lebanese town called Kila, which is approximately 300 feet from us. That's it. Kibbutz Misgav Am. Let's take another look. It is very windy. We have constant military presence here. we can see the footsteps of the Golans and a bit more of Lebanon. Now you can see that fence on the photo. That fence belonged to the kibbutz. And then right behind it, we don't see it here, you will see it in a minute. Right behind it, there is another fence, which is better to be called a wall, because about a meter, about 3 feet east from the fence, we have the wall, which is actually the border between Israel and Lebanon. This is what it looks like. Okay, this is my car, which is parked next to the fence. And then behind the fence, this is the wall. This is the actual border with Lebanon. You can see another photo with the same wall behind the fence. And down here, you can see a photo of one of the tunnels, which was made by Hezbollah, which used to connect Lebanon with Israel, you know, which were found and exploded about 2 years ago in the last operation along the Lebanese border. I believe you do remember this one. And as you stand here, I mean, it is so calm, so quiet, so nice here. And then you look at the fence, and then you look at the wall behind it, and then you can't escape that thought. I mean, hey, is there another tunnel right here underneath? And well, you hope there is no tunnel. Next to Misgavam, there is a very nice observation area, which was built with the generosity of all of you who donated money to JNF during the Second Lebanese War back in 2006. So it is a beautiful place indeed, overlooking the Hula Valley and the Golans and a little bit of Lebanon as well. And all we need to do now is to Metula, that long ago promised tip of the finger of the Galilee. I believe a few of you familiar with Metula, maybe because of the Canada Center, which is a place for recreation. There is a nice pool there. There is an ice skating facility, and you can play bowling there, I think. Anyhow, many people go to Metula just for the sake of the sports center, but there is so much more to Metula. So now we are standing on one of the high spots in Metula. These are the red roofs of the little town. And then in front of you, this is the finger of the Galilee. This is Ramot Naftali, the Naftali Ridge we came from. Now, I think the most famous thing about Metula, at least in the past, today, this is probably the Canada Recreation Center, but in the past, that was the good fence. Now, the good fence is not functioning any longer. It is not functioning for the last 21 years since Israel withdrew its forces from Lebanon. And so we cannot even get in there. I mean, you see there is a road, but there is a fence, and it says stop border in front of you. That's another kilometer, a bit over a kilometer from here. There is a little industrial zone, so when it is open, you can pass that gate, but it's already afternoon and it was closed. So I could just walk, not drive, but walk to the other side of the fence. And we imagine that less than a mile from here, this is the good fence through which the Lebanese citizens could get medical aid and other help starting from 1975 until 2000, when we withdrew our forces from Lebanon. And we left, and the officers of South Lebanese Army, which cooperated with us, left as well. So this is just a nostalgic photo of that lady with the Israeli flag and the Lebanese flag again. So I walked beyond the fence, And I took the last photo of Lebanon. You see, we have these plantations here. These are Israeli grapes. And right beyond the Israeli grapes here, this is the border with Lebanon. And then beyond the grapes, this is the Lebanese plateau, the Lebanese valley called Marj Ayun. And I really, really hope that, you know, a day will come and I will be able to visit Lebanon, just as I never believed I will be able to visit Abu Dhabi and Dubai, but I could, as you know. So just a little stroll along the pioneer street of Metula, which was established back in 1896. One of the moshavot of the first Aliyah, just like Zichron Yaakov, like Rishon LeZion, Nes Zion, Rehovot, and Rosh Pina. So there was also Metula, one of these simple little farming communities, which was supported by Baron Rothschild. So that's it. You know, it's time for a party. We can choose between a little nicely decorated bar, which is right on the Pioneer Street, or we can go to this restaurant, which is called Hatachana. Hatachana means the station. And it's a really, really nice meat restaurant, you know, meat oriented. So it's either one, just to celebrate the fact that the tour is over. And, well, you know, the season is over. Thank you. So thank you so much for joining us again. And we hope to see you again. And this is the cherry plantation, which is waiting for us now. And that's it. The end of BFI Educate first season tours. Pay as you wish. And we decided not to drink beer because I had to drive, and we are vegetarians, so we did not go to a meat restaurant. So we had just a very good gelato, and that's it. Thank you all for joining me.
Well, thank you, Julia, for taking us on that imaginary tour. Let our minds wander. A little green fields look very nice. There are some questions.
Yeah.
You want to take a look at those?
Great. Yeah, sure. Okay, where are the questions? I don't see any questions. Okay. Yeah, sorry. No. Somehow I was in the end of them, not in the beginning. Okay, so there was the link. Okay, we already have the link. I got on late. What happened in South Florida? Hey, Lana. Jody asked, what happened in South Florida? Well, there was a building of, I believe, 13 stores which collapsed for unknown reason, but it just collapsed. And the last update, I heard that there are dozens of people still missing. I don't know, probably you have better updates now, Steve?
No, that's a good assessment. They're expecting some number of unknown, maybe 30 or 40 people, something like that. Real tragedy.
Okay. Yes. Jennifer wrote that her hubby's brother lives near the Lebanon border for many years. Well, if you know where exactly, I will be happy to know. Okay. Glauco wrote, it looks like there is a lot of green in the area of Galilee. More rainfall there. Well, yes, first of all, there is a little bit more rainfall there comparing to Tel Aviv, let's say, because it is a higher elevation. It is further north. But most of the green fields, you see the green plantations, they have artificial irrigation. So it's thanks to, you know, our efforts, and it's for the needs of agriculture, because you could see that in between, like this road where we were driving, everything is sort of dry, brownish. There's not enough rainfall to support the vegetation year round. Okay. was Dodo part of the Cherkessian community? No, he was not. It's just the last name. I mean, he was Jewish. Apparently, his ancestors came from the Cherkessian area. Maybe he did have a Cherkess ancestor. We don't know, but no, he was Jewish, and actually there were no Cherkess members of Palmach, as far as I know. Okay, Harry, have any of the ancient synagogues stand with an intact door, with intact roof? Sorry, no, the roofs did not survive, but sometimes when the roofs collapsed and the stones were there, so we could restore them at least partially, like in El Kanatir in the Golan. So but no. And then on top of that, the most common practice was to have partly wood and partly clay made roofs rather than stone made roofs, because it is lighter, it is high, it is easier to maintain them. So no, roofs did not survive. What is the Hebrew name of the Museum of Friendship? The Hebrew name is Muzeon HaReut. Reut is the other word in Hebrew for friendship. We mostly use Chaverut. Chaverut is the most common word for friendship, but Reut means the same, and Reut is also a name of a girl. Okay. Today in Israel, there was an official commemoration of 15 years since the Second Lebanese War. Unfortunately, too many people don't think about it these days. Pamela, yes, I mean, we think mostly about future of COVID-19, but yeah, of course, you are right. Okay, VFI educates schmooze. Don't forget that. Thank you. Does it snow in the Galilee? Well, occasionally, yes. Let's say in the higher spots like Mount Meron, like Tzfat, it does snow almost every year. It doesn't in Manara, Misgav, this area which we traveled now. It snows maybe once in 2 years, 3 years, something like that. But then the snow will, it will not stay. It will normally melt within hours. If you are very lucky, like last winter, it was a good winter. So the snow lasts for a few days. So we actually drove to Tzfat to, play with snow. Okay. Well, thank you. Okay, well, I can see only thanks now. Thank you all. Oh, Susan, when was Kibbutz Misgav built? Was it to protect Israel rather after the 6 Days War? No, Kibbutz Misgav was established back in 1945. So actually, this community is there before, before there was the State of Israel and before Lebanon. It was built during the British Mandate, and it stayed right there ever since. Okay, well, we ran out of questions, so if you'd like to say something, ask or whatever.
Why don't you speak about Tuesday, King Solomon?
Yeah, it's actually King David. King Solomon was not yet born. Yeah. Well, okay. So yeah. Okay. So the presentation will be, you see, it will be about King David, but we will not be talking about the theological figure of King David or the biblical figure of King David. We will be trying to understand the we will be following the recent archaeological finds in a place called Khirbet Kayafa, which is not far from Beit Shemesh. This is a well-fortified town from the 10th century BCE, which is the appropriate time for King David. And we will be discussing these finds. Do these finds prove or support the biblical description of King David and his kingdom, because up until these new discoveries in Khirbet Kayafa, most scholars, most secular archaeologists would say, well, yeah, King David was an historical figure, but he was like, he was a little king. He was a little ruler of a little, town. He was like a sheikh of a Bedouin tribe. There was a guy called King David, but he was not a great, mighty king of a great kingdom. It was only much, much later when the Bible was assembled. So then he was described as a great king, and actually there was no such thing as the United Kingdom. Okay, this was the most common understanding of history by the secular archaeologists. And then these recent finds in Khirbet Kayafa made them rethink their approach. So, okay, I don't know, I don't want to steal, I don't want to give you too many spoilers, but the bottom line is that we have the biblical description of King David. We have the archaeological evidences, the archaeological understanding of the period of King David. And the presentation will be about, do they support each other? Do archaeology and Bible agree, or there is a contradiction? Okay. And we will be using Khirbet Kayafa as a study case for that. So I do not promise that you will have all the answers in the end of the presentation. You might still have more question marks than answers, but you will at least. It's so special and different and amazing about Khirbet Kayafa in regarding King David.
That sounds great. Yes.
Great. Okay. Amazing. So this presentation will be the last and final presentation for June. The presentation will take place Tuesday, 2 p.m., just as normal.
Julia frozen, or just me?
Yeah. And the VFI Summer Schmooze will begin on July 8th, which if next Tuesday, we won't have it on Thursday, it'll be the following Thursday. All right.
I can't tell if my computer's freezing or I just don't hear anyone.
It's very quiet.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, my computer is not working properly as well. I don't know if you can even hear me.
You're okay.
I can. Yeah.
Okay.
We can hear you, but your screen's frozen.
I know your screen is frozen as well. I don't know what's wrong here.
No, your screen is frozen.
Well, I don't know. All the screens I can see now are frozen, and most of you just disappeared. Maybe you just closed your cameras.
That's called the internet.
Yeah, that's the internet. Well, I told you, you have to come here in person, in reality. I mean, I'm sick of Zooms.
We're ready.
Probably.
Yeah.
Get us okays to come in the country. We're ready.
Okay. Well, I wish I could get you the okay.
Yeah. If somebody wants to read some of the details about the issue of getting in, yesterday's copy of the Jerusalem Post had a lengthy article on the latest status of things. If you get it on the internet, you can probably research that. But it is a fluid situation. It looks to me like it's going to remain fluid for another 60 days at least. And just roll with it. Julia.
What's the name of the newspaper, Steve?
J-Post, Jerusalem Post.
Jerusalem Post. Okay.
Well, yeah, and it was yesterday's copy that I read it in. A lengthy article, lots of details. It covered not only foreigners arriving in Israel, but it also went into vast details on Israeli travels and where they can go and where they can't go and all this other stuff. However, subject to change 24 hours later, who knows? Yeah. Thank you, Julia, for today's episode and taking us on a green tour. And that's
Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Yeah. And
be well, be healthy, and see you Tuesday.
See you Tuesday.
Okay.
Right.
Bye.
Laila Tov.
Laila Tov.
Laila Tov.
Laila Tov. All right, we're now entering into schmooze mode for episode 105. And I'll stop the recording so you can say anything now.